Changed a bunch. So when I joined, there was this newish thing called Airbnb for work with this crazy idea in 2016 that maybe when you go to Tokyo or New York, instead of staying at the big Midtown hotel, you stay at a really cool apartment on the Lower East Side. Uh, that was very foreign to a lot of people. Uh, Even now, I mean, we figured out quickly it doesn't make sense for a one night stay. But just being the first marketing hire, first B2B marketing hire at Airbnb, telling that story was really super fun. And then ended up leading the product marketing team generally there. It's funny, product marketing, one of the first things my boss, our CMO, asked me to do is, hey, can you go figure out where the hell is this product marketing thing? He's a genius brand guy, incredible human being. And I found out it means something different everywhere. Um, but, ostensibly product marketing is, my friend put this really well, is the product manager stands back to back with the product marketer. The product manager is looking at the engineers and stakeholders and what we can do internally. The product marketing manager is looking out at the audience. Who is this really for? Who does this matter to? Let me talk to them and get to know them, and they work together. That's how it's supposed to work, anyway.
Yeah. And was there anything kind of unique about the team structure at Airbnb, just being at such a, you know, fast growing company? Anything around what their management philosophy was like, team structure was like, that you took away from being at such a top tier kind of
Oh man,
organization?
so many things. I think the biggest thing about being at a hyper growth place like that is, I got to remember the exact phrasing because I'm going to butcher it. But there was a tweet a few years ago. It said what it's actually like inside a hyper growth startup. This was during the go-go days, like 2021. This tweet, I must be from Lord of the Rings or something. It's a big tree and there's a big sliver in it, and there's just fire and brimstone like going on in there. It's just total chaos. And I wouldn't say it was total chaos. Brilliant people there, great culture, um, smart people, but just things you wouldn't believe. I guess my favorite example that sort of crystallizes this, we had a huge party in LA, flew in the entire company to launch Airbnb experiences in 2017. I hadn't been there very long. I heard that, hey, after the Brian's big speech, we're all going up to the Hollywood Hills. We rented a whole house. Anyways, it's very surreal. I'm standing in this pool next to this guy who started, 7 months before me, and just chatting, mid-level guy. And he goes, yeah, I just came back from Cupertino before this trip. I said, oh, what? He said, oh, well, I guess Apple had been trying to reach out to the company for months because they wanted us to update our app, profile or whatever. And we don't have anybody who does App Store stuff. So they were just like, hey, can you just go down there and talk to them? And he's like, there were like 12 people there. I thought, are you kidding? He's a good friend of mine. I'm like, there's nobody here. Because I'd come from the world before Airbnb, where whether you're a fintech app or a mobile game, your Apple relationship with that rep, like that's 80% of the company. So there were so many examples like that, Paul, that just like, wow, this place is growing so fast. There's such product market fit. But if people knew all of the things we're not doing, they'd be amazed.
Sure. And you kind of started off the conversation with explaining a little bit about your the reasons behind starting Ready Set and why that mattered, and kind of bridging the gap between brand and performance. Was any of that happening at Airbnb? Was your experience at Airbnb in any way part of the reason why you started Ready Set, or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny you ask because I just heard from a friend who's the head of FP&A, financial planning and analysis. He was the head of it for marketing back then. And this poor guy is brilliant. He had to bop back and forth between the performance building I mentioned and that 200-person team and the 9 figures they were spending, and look at all the math, how much should we invest here and how much is coming back and how are we attributing. They tried forever to get a multi-touch model working that never worked. And then the brand team. And our goals were literally like, well, we think we can get 50% payback in 3 years. It's just so hard to measure brand, right? Especially then. And I remember he was, in the sort of our den of this marketing leadership team meeting. And he was saying, look, these guys are making back all their money and then some, like really fast. What are you guys doing? And I was the guy banging the table for multiple of these meetings saying, hey, but we're building the brand. You plural are more likely to click on a Airbnb ad than an Acme shoes ad. Like that is really helping those other guys. And by the way, we're all the same company. Um, and they did a couple tests to try to show that, but it was just really hard to connect. So I feel a bit bad for the higher parts of the funnel because, and I saw this there, as I just said, like on the ground, because there's a lot that ought to be attributed to them that's just always going to be too fuzzy to figure out. But there's no question in my mind the payback, the CAC, all of that for all of the hundreds of millions we were spending on performance advertising would not have been the same if there wasn't this really trustworthy Airbnb brand.